What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talk Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So, not as much to cover today. Most of the free agency stuff has died down. There's still a few moves that happen. So let's get right to it. First off, we had a coaching change in the NHL a couple of weeks back. Dallas Stars fire Pete DeBoer. Last week, they find a replacement. It was in Glenn Gulutzin, who actually returns for the Dallas Stars. He was the Stars coach previously from 2012 to 2013 for 2 years. To me, this is a weak hire. So you fired DeBoer after 3 straight Western Conference Finals appearances in 3 years on the job. I get it. You've put a lot of money into that team. That team is loaded. You come up a little short again. However, if you're going to replace Pete DeBoer, you better have a legit replacement in place. Similar to the New York Knicks in basketball. Tom Thibodeau was there for 5 years. He turns the franchise around, takes them to their first conference finals in 25 years. If you're going to fire him, you better you have a plan in there and get a legit coach in there. You know, I like the Mike Brown hire. Other people don't. It's another story, completely different sport. You're firing Pete DeBoer, who's a proven coach in the NHL, has been for a while, took you to 3 straight conference finals. You know, if you're like, all right, maybe he won't be able to take us to the next level. Okay, but that's fair. That's understandable. Maybe he has a ceiling. But if you're gonna make the move, you better have a plan in place. You better have someone you're going after. You better go out and get a championship level coach. And Glenn Gulutzin, he's been a head coach in the NHL for 4 years. He was in Dallas in 2012 and 2013. Then he was in Calgary in 2017 and 2018. He has never won a playoff game in 4 years. So only made the playoffs once. That was in 2017 in Calgary, and he got swept by Anaheim. The other 3 years, he was a coach twice with Dallas and the 1 year in Calgary. He didn't make the playoffs. He didn't make the playoffs from the strike-shortened year in Dallas in 2013. He played what's basically half a season, 48 games, just over half a season. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me for his career. He's 146, 125, and 23. So he's in the regular season, he is 2 games under 500 for his career, and he's never won a playoff game. As a head coach, he has not been a head coach in the NHL for 7 years. He's only been a head coach in the league for 4 years. There's a reason there was a 4-year gap between his 2 stints, and now you have another 7-year gap between his stint that's about to start in Dallas. Then his last stint in Calgary. Granted, this will be by far the most talented team he's ever coached. However, to fire DeBoer for Gulutzin, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Kind of a weak hire, if you ask me. But moving on, a couple of moves that happened in the NHL. The Blues signed Pius Suter, 2 years, $8 million. This is a solid signing for them. He's a solid plug. He had a career last year, 25 goals and 46 points. And he's only going to be 29. So he's not super old, but we're gonna have RedBox join us. Haven't talked to him in a little bit, so we're gonna have him hop on with us today. RedBox, how are we?
Wow, we're pretty good. Just been watching a lot of Wimbledon and kind of keeping tabs on NHL free agency.
But yeah, I was talking about actually like the Stars brought in Glenn Gulutzin. That's even how you say his name, to be their coach, which I was a little surprised about. I thought they would go after maybe a little bigger name after you fire a coach in DeBoer, who was in the conference finals 3 years in a row. But I mean, I was talking about that was kind of an odd hire, and then not a whole lot of other moves happened like the last 24 hours. The day before was the big day, but I was talking about like Pius Suter to the Blues, and there's not a whole lot else that's happened that yesterday.
We're still waiting on a few big names too, I believe,
Yeah.
from Winnipeg. Oh, his name is escaping me now. Of course it is.
I know Appleton, I think, signed with, I'm not sure if it's even, he was on me. The Jets at one point. Mason Appleton went to Detroit.
Yes, I
2-year
did see
deal.
that.
Trying to think who else is over there. That was a free agent, but yeah, there's still a couple of guys out there. Obviously, you never know what's going to happen with trades. There's a lot of next year's free agency class is supposed to be loaded. McDavid, if he's not extended, Panarin's going to be a free agent next year. So who knows? Maybe a big trade happens. I don't know. We of course, like always, have had some trades. Okay.
I think that was on Monday.
The Kings made a lot of moves. They've been very, very busy.
Edmonton sold off half their team, man.
Yeah, they traded Kane to Vancouver.
Kane,
Yeah, he went to Vancouver. I know
Ehlers, that's from Winnipeg.
Oh yeah, we're still waiting on him, I believe, right? Yeah.
Utah,
Hmm.
which I think is interesting. Either Utah, somewhere sunny, or there's rumblings Edmonton, which I
Okay.
highly doubt.
All right, but yeah, Edmonton, yeah, they've lost some guys. You mentioned they traded off Kane, and now they gave they traded him. Bouchard got a big deal to come back.
He did.
They brought in what's his name? Andrew Montapane, who he was in Calgary for a while.
Yep.
They signed him for 2 years. I was hoping they would go out and, for their sake, go out and get a better goalie. Hasn't happened. I don't really know what's out there, to be honest. The biggest goal I saw was like John Gibson, who hasn't been good in a bunch of years, being traded for Peter Mrazek.
That's interesting. Yeah, Mrazek was good a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah, he was like in his last good year he had, that 1 year in Carolina. I think 2021. The last few years, he's not been very good.
And then of course the big move. I don't know. Have you been on since Canada Day?
I'm not familiar with Canada Day. However, I mean the big move was
July 1st. Have you been on?
Yes, yeah, I have.
So I'm sure you talked about the big Marner trade.
Yes. By the way, did Toronto get something decent back?
I don't know who we got for him. I don't think it was anything special.
I mean, usually in Simon trades, when you're just like, all right, we're not signing him, just take him, just give us something. It's usually.
And I'm glad he's gone.
I mean, great player. Like I will say, I don't think he's a $12 million a year player. We're gonna get Alec in here too, and Alec, just like yourself, is a very big hockey fan. So the three of us can talk about this now. So what's going on, Alec?
Got room for one more here?
Absolutely. So we're talking about a bunch of hockey. Mitch Marner to the Knights out was the big move. I know RedBox is the Leafs fan, saying he's very happy that Marner is gone.
Even when the return is just minimal, Toronto had no leverage in this trade negotiation.
No.
It was just Nick Waugh, and that's it.
Okay, yeah. So they got that's right. It was Nick Waugh back. Okay, so all right. So you get something back at least. You get a player that will be in your lineup next year. I would think.
Someone who can contribute on a bottom six role and can grind out on penalty kills.
All right, so that's actually better than what I thought they were going to get back. Usually in these things, it's like, oh, we'll throw you a conditional 4th round pick or 4 years or something. But Nick Waugh, I mean, it's he's not going to have 80 points, but 3rd, 4th line guy could be worse.
And he shuts down in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, he was followed the Leafs. I guess their model of regular season, you put up a bunch of funny, fancy numbers, and then playoffs, something else happens.
He blocked a trade for last year.
I forgot who it was.
I think he wasn't willing to use his no. I think it was going to be a 3-team trade.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, something with Rantanen.
Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah.
I would take that man 11 times out of 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I remember that Rantanen, he only wanted to go to Dallas so that he can rub it in Colorado.
Yeah.
Which he did. Yeah, that bunker series and obviously beat them.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That was poetic.
First rounds ever.
That was crazy. Not only did they win, he had like 8 goals or something in that series.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
In game 7.
Yeah, that he do it nuts.
Meanwhile, you have me begging for Eric Tolsky to sign Nikolai Ehlers. Oh, you have no idea.
I mean,
good player.
The Jets are my team when the Leafs inevitably go by the wayside. So I don't want to see him leave Winnipeg. I think he's great there, but I also think Winnipeg's a hard city to play in, if nothing
Mhm.
else, for geographic and weather reasons. So I think he wants to go somewhere sunny. There's rumors he's going to end up in Utah. I don't know
Really?
about that.
Yeah, no.
He's going somewhere sunny. I mean, Florida, I can't imagine have the money, though. Who knows? Maybe Avros will be like, you know what? I'll win a cup if I
Caps
take
are
the
only
minimum.
cap two.
Yeah, so they don't have the money. I'm just thinking of the straight places. I mean, the Kings. I mean, it's sunny there. It's sunny in California. However, they signed like 6 guys
Yeah.
a day or two ago.
The Caps.
The Kings free agency period was a disaster.
They had some interesting signings, to say the least. Interesting contracts they gave out.
Cody Ceci to 4
Yeah,
years at $4.5 million per year.
That was crazy. Even the Doomlin deal wasn't great to me. 4 part of that for him at this point, but Cece was rough.
I feel like
Man.
CC just ends up in a new team every year.
I do too. I remember 2 years ago when I was watching the Cup final, I was like, oh my god, this guy's on the Oilers, and like he just jumps around. Now he's gonna be on the Kings.
Or whatever team that Ken Holland shines it.
Exactly.
Oh God, Kings fans, I am so sorry.
That's right. Ken Holland's running the show though. Good luck.
Oh, it was great in the pre-salary cap era with Detroit, Ken Holland, that is. But after the salary cap, it just started going downhill.
Yeah, with Edmonton didn't work out obviously, and now he's with the Kings, and he just decided I'm gonna sign. I think it looked like just threw in. He went in like those random AI generators, like give me players, and it just spits out Joe Armia, Brian Dumoulin, Cody Ceci.
Don't get me wrong, Dumoulin was great in his Pittsburgh years,
Right.
but that's far behind him now.
Exactly. Like yes, decent part of those Cup teams for sure, but those Cup teams were what 8 years ago at this point. But yeah, he's past his prime. I mean, Armia's fine, I guess. But another guy who's on the wrong side of 30. Forsberg, we didn't give him a ton of money, but he isn't very good. I mean,
He's a backup.
He's a backup. That was I mean, they made a lot of moves. I mean, I know they've lost in the first round like every year to Edmonton. They can't get past them in the first round for whatever reason. Obviously,
A long day.
Edmonton's very good, obviously, but I'm not sure if this was it.
No, I don't think so. It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
For me, the Ducks are willing to make moves that actually make sense.
Yeah.
Just trading for Kreider.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure about the Granlund contract. Don't get me wrong. Granlund's a good player.
Right.
Still getting overpaid.
Yeah, $7 million's a little much. I mean, he's been in the league for a while. He's another guy who's kind of been jumping from team to team. Seems like almost every year. It seems like he gets traded every year and then signs somewhere else every year. Maybe, but like you said, good player. I think last year he had like 20 goals, maybe 40-something points, 60-something points. So he's a good player. But yes, $7 million is a bit much, but I mean, I can imagine they have a lot of money to spend. They're not paying a lot of guys over there. And then they traded Zegras to the Flyers, so a while ago.
Zegras could be a bounce back candidate.
Mhm.
I'm just not sure how he's going to pan out in Philadelphia because his later years in Anaheim, his confidence was shot.
It really was. Yeah, he came up. He was great, and that he actually became one of my favorite players a couple of years ago. Obviously he's fun to watch. Really young. Looked like he was the guy Anaheim was going to build around, and then all of a sudden you look a couple years later, he's just missing time, and just obviously the production isn't there. And in Anaheim, they've been bad for a long time, obviously. But I mean, he needed a fresh start more than maybe any player in the league. That's for sure. Is Philadelphia that spot? Oh no, Philadelphia isn't exactly. They haven't exactly been into a successful hockey franchise recently either.
Yeah.
So Montreal's a spot for him.
Yeah, and they're in the midst of a rebuild, but him and Matvei Michkov, look out.
I mean, it should be fun to watch. I'm not sure how many wins it'll lead to, but it would be fun to watch from a fan perspective, at least, I guess.
Yeah, from a fan perspective, That's gonna be fireworks.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I don't know. Are they gonna make the playoffs? I doubt it. I mean,
Like, for a rebuilding team, we don't expect playoffs
No.
from them.
yeah, you just kind of expect guys to develop, and hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's entertaining-ish to watch. Hopefully it's not too bad.
That's true.
But then just go looking at moves that happened in the last day or so. Not a whole lot. The Avs signed Brian Burns, who is still kicking, still going.
Hey, Brent Burns, or should I say Chewbacca, 1 year. He's gonna retire.
I did too. I mean, the guy's gonna be. I think he's gonna be 40. But he can still defend. The offense really isn't there anymore, but he can still defend. Obviously, longtime Shark was in Carolina recently, and it's going to Colorado. He
Yep.
brings his ruggedness and his glorious beard. Love his beard to Colorado, and then the Sharks signed Orlov. Had broke not too long ago. 2 years, 13 million total, 6.5 million a year for Orlov to San Jose.
You know what? That's not a bad signing, actually.
He's
I
a
don't mind that.
he's a solid player. I'm sure the Sharks have a ton of money. There's no one. They're not really paying anybody over there. Now they re-signed Eklund for 3. He got a decent deal, and then now you bring in Orlov, and then just they're still kind of building from the ground up. You drafted Celebrini last year. You had pick 2 this year.
And you use it on Michael Misa, which
Right.
makes a lot of sense for the future.
Yeah, so that was a good pick, and then there isn't a whole lot over there. They've been really bad, but I mean they'll have high picks the next bunch of years. I'm sure they have a ton of cap space. Future can't look that bad. Might be a few years, but shouldn't look that bad. Let me ask you guys this, since you guys are big hockey fans. Were you surprised that Hager fell in the draft?
Yeah, I'm surprised Hagen's fell 7th. I would expect
I
him
was
to go
too.
top 3 at the highest.
Yeah.
But then to fall 7th, that's a big shock.
I think he was projected around 3-4, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, then he goes
Yeah,
7th
it
to
was.
Boston, which is kind of ironic because obviously he's a Long Island kid. Obviously, Boston's not too far. I mean, I can't stand the Islanders as a Ranger fan, but I'm surprised. Not saying it was like the wrong thing to do, but I was surprised the Islanders didn't maybe be like, you know what? Once they saw him got past 5, they didn't rush to their phone and try and get 6 because there was no way he was getting past the Bruins.
No way.
I mean, 16 and 17 they got for Dobson. I mean, that's a big jump. But I don't know. I would have tried to make it work. I thought that's what they did the deal. Obviously, I don't think you're paying Dobson what he got paid if you're the Islanders, but I thought they would at least try and move up for him.
That would have been. But I would not blame the Islanders if they tried to trade up for Hagens, but they decided to stick with their first round picks they got in the Dobson trade and getting Eklund and Atchison. That's a home run draft.
They had a good draft,
instantly.
Yeah, and obviously you take Matthew Schaefer with the first pick. You get back Heineman for Dobson. Saves you a bunch of money because he gets 9.5 per year from Montreal.
A little bit aside, I feel like either the Erie Otters or the London Knights almost always have the first overall pick every couple of years.
That would be because you remember McDavid, he came from the Erie Otters.
Yep.
That's the most famous case.
And I think there's been one since then too, hasn't there?
Trying to think of recent first round picks. You had Matthews, McDavid, Lafreniere, Schaefer was this year, Celebrini was last year, Hughes was.
Yep. Well, Celebrini was U of M, I think.
I think the exception was Slavkovsky, who came overseas.
Okay.
It's Czech Republic, right? No.
Yeah, I think it's either Czech Republic or Slovakia.
Okay. Yeah, obviously Ancho has a lot of international guys.
There we go.
They were one country 30 years ago. I was close.
Yeah. That's fair.
But Alec, let me ask you this: you're a Penguins fan, right?
Pens and Canes.
Okay, so I mean, the Canes may even move the Rangers. They get DeAndre Miller. They give up the picks and Scott Morrow. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
All right, so on Keandre Miller, I think Carolina's banking on the window in which he bounces back in
Yeah.
2023 for. That
Mhm.
year was his best year of his career.
Definitely.
And over the last 2 seasons, he had down years.
Mhm.
I think the potential was there to bounce back to 2023. And on this defensive system, it could work.
Mhm.
I'm surprised that he gave up a first, a second,
Yeah.
and Scott Morrow to get him, because ideally you'd give up a second in terms of draft picks
Yeah.
at the most, given his trade value. But a first, I think Eric Tolsky is big on him. This has to work.
Yeah, it was I was a little surprised. I mean, I'm not that surprised the Rangers traded him, but I think once they brought in Gavrikov, the rating was kind of on the wall for him. I don't think they can afford both. When Miller first came into the league, he burst onto the scene. I think they were really hoping that was going to be Adam Fox's partner for as many years as they were going to be together. Hasn't quite worked out. Like you said, a couple of years ago, he was excellent, but he regressed the last 2 years. Defensively frustrating to watch. Just not great. And obviously, like you said, they're banking on him returning to form, which could happen. Carolina seems to always just get the most out of the D-man. I mean, they gave him a big contract, but Rangers definitely got a good return. He got a top 10 ticket first next year, which he will probably get. Can't mention the Carolina Hurricanes are going to have a top 10 pick. They get a second rounder, and Scott Morrow, who's a young defenseman who's got a lot of talent and still 22 years old.
Yeah. So at the same time, in making this trade and trading away more, we're obviously going to bank it on our other top defensive prospect, Alexander Nikishin. And letting go of Orlov, we're banking on Nikishin's potential. He has a big shot, and he can fit well in this system.
Definitely, yeah. He definitely has a big shot. That's something that has never really gone away, even with the regression the last 2 years. So they make a move. Trying to think of, you would know better than I do, but I'm not sure how busy Pittsburgh was.
Just signed a couple free agents in small deals. The most notable is Anthony Mantha on a 1-year deal.
Okay.
And the writing on the wall with the Mantha signing is that either Rust or Raquel is going to get traded soon. And Kyle Dubas is going to work on trade negotiations with that.
All right. Also, that's a team that's got a bunch of older players. Obviously, they look like they're going to ride it out with Crosby and all those folks. But they're obviously
basically a farewell tour for Malkin as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He'll get his last year. Crosby, I know he signed an extension like a year ago. He's obviously gonna retire a Penguin. There's no doubt in my mind. And Tang will probably do the same.
Well, I wonder if Malkin will follow the Pavel Datsyuk route and end up going back and playing a few seasons in Russia.
That's interesting.
That could be an interesting development.
Seems to be what a lot of them do these days.
Yeah.
I have no doubt in my mind Ovechkin will do that at least once.
Yeah.
Once he's accomplished all the records he wants to accomplish in the NHL, he'll go back and play
In Russia.
for a Russian team for a year or two and score 40 goals or something.
That's like he's gonna have he'll have 45 goals probably when he's 43 years old over there. But yeah, so I think that's all the NHL moves that I'm gonna cover today. In basketball, Hornets signed Dinwiddie for a year. Hornets have actually surprisingly done some nice things. They bring him in for a year. He averaged 11 points a game last year. And the Lakers make a move. They signed DeAndre Ayton, 2 years, $16.6 million with an option for the second year. I mean, it's a big man, I guess. I don't know how the Lakers are going to play any defense next year with Ayton.
Are he and Mark Williams the same center?
They're very similar, good athletes. They're good rebounders. They can score a little bit in the paint, but only play a lot of defense and miss a lot of games.
Yeah. That the durability is the big question.
Yeah.
And you have to bring back Jackson Hayes if you're the Lakers.
Yeah, so obviously they got LeBron for one more year. Obviously you guys start worrying about building around Luka Doncic. They brought in Jake LaRavia as well. It's kind of he's not a world beater, not horrible. You also let go of Finney Smith though, and but I mean, I don't know how they're going to play a whole lot of defense next year.
Oh, now that you mentioned Dorian Finney-Smith, how about those Rockets?
Rockets have been cooking. They get Kevin Durant for not a whole lot. They signed Finney Smith. They bring back an old friend Capella. Rockets look good.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, the KD trade might not be done. It actually may
Apparently,
involve
yeah.
7 teams.
Yeah, which is crazy.
How?
How in the world do you get 7 teams involved in a trade?
Supposedly, Finney Smith and Capella, like the Rockets signed them, of course. Apparently they're gonna be involved in the Simon trade.
That's how it feels going to be the case with Finney-Smith.
Yeah, so apparently the Hawks, Nets, Warriors, Lakers, and T-Wolves are all going to be involved, on top of the Rockets and the Suns. So right now it's looking like, so Durant, technically the full Durant return would be, of course, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and the Rockets would also get Clint Capella and then I think Daquan Cloud, who I've never even heard of in my life, is supposedly involved. But yeah, so apparently it's expanding to 7 teams.
Yeah, I have no clue who that is either.
Yeah, I've never heard of that guy. But
The record right now is 6, but 7 is unprecedented.
yeah, 7-team trade. That's wild.
I don't understand the point of a 7. Like, why? Why is there so many guys who?
I guess is that everyone who lost a player is trying to get something back, at least in terms of future draft capital for a guy they lost him for agency. So now they're just combining this one gigantic trade, which it's basically they're basically just making things more complicated for everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just feel bad that you're gonna have to deal with all Durant's nonsense in Houston. Like,
You know,
it makes sense for the Rockets, and hopefully Durant doesn't, try and use his influence too much, which to this point he hasn't. So I guess we'll see what happens.
at this point, I don't think that's been the case as of late.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually is good for the young core in which they can develop their offensive game, and then it can actually develop someone who's willing to take the last shot. Because KD, he's willing to take the last shot. So in due time, someone can be willing to take the last shot. Me thinks it's Jabari Smith who's going to be the one who's going to be willing to take the last shot in the end.
Okay. But it does make sense because obviously Houston team that's very young, a lot of young players, very good defensively, but needed that one legit first option. And Durant, for all of his warts when it comes to just the drama and the injuries and the lack of defense, that guy can still score. He averaged almost 27 last year, so he can still score. I did not want him on the Knicks. He had a chance to come to the Knicks. He said no. He can kick rocks as far as I'm concerned, but with Houston, I get why, and they did not give up a whole lot for him either. Green, Brooks, and the 10th pick is not a whole lot to give up.
Not a whole lot. Feels like the more bittersweet loss for Houston because he helped set the culture for what is the Rockets that are today.
Yeah, he's a good defensive player. That brings a lot of toughness to a team on the bench, but he's also not a premier player. And Green, he just didn't fit on the team. Like, he's still young. Maybe he gets better. I'm not that high on him, to be honest, but he did not fit in Houston anymore. Not next to Eamon Thompson, at least.
The writing was on the wall.
It was. He was probably going to get traded anyway. I think we all saw that coming. But moving on, probably the last thing I'm going to cover is some baseball. The All-Star starters were named today, or not today, yesterday, in the American League. Cal Raleigh, of course, was the catcher. He's had a crazy year, 33 home runs in 84 games, leads the league in home runs. having an historic year offensively for a catcher, OPS over 1,000. He beats out Alejandro Kirk in Toronto. Vlad Guerrero Jr. gets the nomination at first base. Of course, he gets the big deal in the at the beginning of the season. Gets $500 million extension, and then he's got 380 on base, 828 OPS this year, 12 home runs. Second straight time he's going to start the All-Star game. He beats up Paul Goldschmidt. Gleyber Torres, his first All-Star selection. Good for him. He leads the Yankees, goes to the Tigers, is having the best year of his career. Hitting 284, 386 on base, which is a career high for him. He beats out Jackson Holliday. Jacob Wilson, who's probably going to be the rookie of the year in the American League this year. He's hitting 339, which is second in the league besides Judge. He's had a great year, 853 OPS.
Am I what?
So for the A's, probably I guess the lone bright spot, beats out Bobby Witt. At third is Jose Ramirez, kind of been the norm lately. He's got 13 home runs and 21 steals in 80 games. He's going to have at least 2020 for the 5th year in a row, 860 OPS. He's probably on pace for the Hall of Fame at this point. He beats out Alex Bregman. Bregman's, of course, I think he's still hurt or he got back recently. Rhino Hearn's going to be the DH in the American League. He guy who kind of flamed down in Kansas City. He's gone to the Orioles and been a lot better. This year hitting 295, 3 on base, 854 OPS. He beats out Ben Rice. And the 3 outfielders, one is, of course, Aaron Judge. Judge having another outstanding year, hitting 358 this year. I think he's got like 30 or 31 home runs. Might win his third MVP this year. Got Riley Green makes the All-Star team for the Tigers. He's got a 909 OPS, a 559 slugging. He's also got 21 bombs. He's really blossoming. Second straight All-Star appearance, more top 5 pick in the draft. And Javier Baez is starting the All-Star game. Guy was really bad the last year, but has had a better year this year, 783 OPS. I'm not sure if I would have had him start, but he has had a much better year, obviously moving into the outfield this year. He beats out Mike Trout and Stephen Kwan. And then in the National League, no sniffs behind the dish. For National League, he's hitting 320, which leads the National League. Also with a 418 on base, which is great for a catcher. 532 slugging. The last catcher for 304 to 500 season was Buster Posey in 2012. He beats out Carson Kelly. Freddie Freeman's at first base, not much of a surprise. I think 308, 10 homers, 43 RBIs, and 21 doubles. He beats out Pete Alonso. Gatel Marte is at second. He's had another great season, hitting 296, 400 on base, slugging is almost 600. Beats out Tommy Edman. Francisco Lindor is a shortstop. Very happy for Lindor. His first All-Star selection as a Met. He's had a great season. He beats out Mookie Betts. Manny Machado. He's a veteran, but he's still having a good year. And 293, 13 homers, 47 RBIs. Obviously, he's been playing both third base and shortstop. And he beats out Max Muncy. The DH is Ohtani. Not much else to say there. The outfielders have been Ronald Acuna, who has been outstanding since coming off the injury. He's hitting 350 in 35 games, 1076 OPS this year. Pico Armstrong has had an incredible rookie year for the Cubs. Sticking with the Mets, traded them for 2 months of Javier Baez. Dude's an incredible player. My player comparison to him was probably like an Alfonso Soriano kind of guy. And then Kyle Tucker also makes the All-Star team. Another Cubs outfielder having a great year. He's hitting 290 with 17 home runs and 20 steals. He's been as advertised after coming over in a trade from the Astros on the offseason. And the 3 runner-ups in the outfield nationally were Teoscar Hernandez, Juan Soto, and Andy Page for the Dodgers. So those are the MLB All-Stars. That's all I got for you guys today. Alec and RedBox, thank you for joining in. You're welcome anytime. Till next time, so long. Have a great day.